Yeah, or it is a hybrid vehicle. In both the cases, we have an inverter, which is to drive an electric motor, right? Because most of the time we use an AC motor and we have a battery pack, and so from the battery pack we get the DC power and we supply that to the motor, converting that from DC to AC, right? And then in case of regenerative braking happens, then in that case we need to convert that from AC to DC. So we might use the same inverter back for that, or some cases people use onboard charger also, especially for regenerative braking. People many times think that onboard charger means it is only meant for charging. That means only meant for normal vehicle charging, right? But some of the companies like Honda, Hyundai, they utilize it for even for regenerative braking as well. So they utilize the onboard charger and take the line from the stators for regenerative braking as well, to convert the AC to DC output to the motor, to the battery. So inverter system is playing a very important role. And in this small session that I have been assigned, we are going to talk about some of the new technologies and new methodologies, I would say, rather than technology. So new methodologies adopted by manufacturers in order to improve some of the factors of the inverter system, right? So let us look at it. So when we look at an inverter, right, this is an example of an inverter system of an electric or hybrid vehicle. So for this example, I've taken from Toyota Prius, and this is the inverter that is used in Toyota Prius, right? I hope people are quite well known about the vehicle Toyota Prius. It is a very successful hybrid vehicle which is available in the market today, right? And they are there in the market for the past around, I can say, 13-14 years. They are still in the market, and they have seen many ups and downs, and many improvements on terms of technology. The inverter, what you are seeing in front of your screen, is not the same that they had before 10-12 years. So before 2010, the inverter design at Toyota Prius was different, and for every generation of Toyota Prius, there has been a lot of improvement taken place on the inverter, right? So for example, if we look at this particular model, so this is for example, this is the previous model. You can say like the previous generation of the drive system of Toyota Prius, and this is the new generation, the new model of inverter system and the drive system of the Toyota Prius. So maybe can you participants, any participant, can you identify any major change that you think is majorly done compared to the previous model and new model? Can anyone please answer this question? What do you think that there is a major change between these two drive system? You can also use the chat box if you want to answer anything, or you can use your mic as well to answer. But I don't want to take something and go, because I just want to have some interaction with all the faculties. So if someone want to answer, kindly please. What is the key difference that you see between the previous model of the drive system of this vehicle and the new model of the drive system? See, this is the inverter. So this is the transmission transaxle, we could say. So inside this transaxle only we have the motors. So in Toyota Prius we have two permanent magnet synchronous motors. So both are sitting inside this transaxle. So this is the inverter. So can you people identify the difference, major difference? Am I audible to everyone? Hello, Ravi sir.
Yes,
Hello.
sir,
audible,
Sir. Yes.
Yes, sir, audible.
Okay.
Sir, audible,
Okay.
sir.
Yeah. So could you please answer, anyone? So being a faculty, only you people ask questions to students. So here is someone to ask questions to you people. Just give some answer, random answer. There is no issues whether it is 100% right or not. I'm not going to go to the next step until I get some answer. So there are, I think, 50 plus participants are there. At least this one answer. Or Ravi sir, are you there? Maybe you can try to answer it as part of the, or anyone from KPR.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are there.
Yeah, could you please give some answers, sir, regarding this? Just say the difference that you see visually, at least. I'm getting some answers in the chat box. See, not in the answer. It's a good morning message. I need some answers, please. Quick.
Maybe the electronic components have increased the new model.
Okay. Is it visually shown, sir? I think, yeah, I'm getting an answer from Kritika Bala Subramanian, right? So she has given a very good answer. High voltage cable, right? So what we see is the major difference is the cable length, right? Compared to the previous model, the new model has a limited cable length. Cable length in the sense the cable between the inverter and the motor drive, the motor system, the motor which is present inside the transaxle, right? So the high voltage cable which is running to the two permanent magnet synchronous motor, the total length of the cable has been drastically reduced. And when we say reduction in the cable length, what does it mean? How does it translate? When we say reduction in cable length, what is the advantage? Same, maybe Kritika Subramaniam, Balasubramaniam, madam, could you answer the same if possible?
Reduce power losses.
Okay, reduced power losses. Okay. Yes. Yeah, so that's a good answer. So power losses can be avoided, and we see that one of the main reason that we go for higher voltage system is basically to improve the efficiency, right? So, and if we have such a kind of unwanted, unnecessary wiring and its associated losses, then obviously it is not going to be acceptable, right? So as you said, yes, the high voltage cable is one of the important change being done there. And what is the second change that you see? It's very easily visually it is noticeable, right? Anything else? I would say the position of the inverter. You can see that in the previous model, the inverter was positioned somewhere in a bit of distance, and the transaxle, they are having a wiring, and that is increasing the cost, right? Not only the cost, it is actually reducing the overall efficiency, creating some losses in the wiring side. And in the new model, the inverter system for the two motors is integrated on top of this transaxle, which is making it more closer to the transaxle, more closer to the motor. And moreover, not only the this integration, not only bringing the inverter very closely, you can see this distance, you can see the distance between the previous model, distance between the transaxle and the outer edge of the inverter and the new model, right? And end of the day, the new model has been integrated, so it brings up, we call it as a more power dense system. End of the day, this whole the power unit occupies a very lesser space compared to the previous model, right? So this is the inverter model, inverter system that is being used for the this particular hybrid vehicle application, right? Let us understand the inverter technology, how it is being taken by different companies. So this is a table which compares the inverter of different automotive manufacturers, right? I hope people might be aware about these companies, Chevrolet and Toyota. Toyota, I think people will be very much aware. Nissan, I think everyone know. BMW, Audi, and Tesla, right? So here what we are doing is, here we are comparing some 7 inverter topology, inverter systems. So we can see that in Chevrolet Volt and Cadillac, and then Toyota Prius, these are all hybrid vehicles basically, right? So being a hybrid vehicle, most of the hybrid vehicles have dual motor concept, and because of that there is a dual inverter system. And we see the Nissan Leaf, i3, BMW i3, Audi A3, Tesla Model S, all are pure electric vehicles, not hybrid vehicle. So being a pure electric vehicle, most vehicles will have a single motor. So here it is a single inverter system, right? And you can see that the major difference, the major thing that has to be noticed in the inverter selection or the inverter technology for EV application is power density. So which company do you think is having a more power dense inverter? Any people identify that? Which company is having the highest power density inverter as of now? You can also use the chat box if you are unable to use the mic. Very good. So we are actually seeing answers in chat box. Thank you for that. Thank you for your involvement in that. So yeah, the answer is Tesla. So you can see Tesla Model S. They are having a power density of 30.1 kVA per liter, right? It's per volume. You can basically, I think people are very well aware. Power density means it's the power produced by the drive unit per unit volume, we can say. So end of the day, how much volume it occupies and how much amount of power it delivers in the system, right? So that is a key difference. And here we can see that it is 30.1 in Tesla Model S. And then second place is with Toyota Prius. You can see that it is having a power density of 23.7. And then we have Cadillac 22.6. And the worst case is Nissan Leaf, where it is 7.1, right? So power density plays a very, very important role on the inverter design, because if the power density is very high, then at the end of the day, the inverter system can be very small. It will occupy a very small space in the system, so that end of the day, the overall weight of your application, right? Either it may be a passenger car and a passenger or a bus or a truck, it will be a weight saving factor. Really, if you ask me, I'm not a person who support passenger cars really. I'm a hater of cars basically. I love buses. I love passenger buses and city buses basically. So I'm the one who's one of the person who support that city buses and transport vehicles basically, rather than using cars. So if you see that inverter comparison, this kind of power density design, especially, it will be very useful for bigger vehicles like buses, trucks, right? Even some of the passenger cars also. So wherever you have a bigger vehicle, then the power density, it is a factor that it is going to save a lot of space, and it is going to make our system more compact, right? End of the day, even in terms of design as well, it is going to be very time consumption will be very less. At the same time, it is going to be very challenging, because making a system more power dense, smaller, compact, it is not so easy. So all engineers are actually working towards that. You can see the power rating of each and every inverter here. So Tesla Model S 193, Cadillac is having 215. So different power ratings. Specific powers also, we can say in terms of specific power also, Tesla Model S is actually leading in that zone. And you can see that Chevrolet is in the position of second, 21.7 kilovolt ampere per kilogram. So this is how the inverter has been, the difference between the inverters of different manufacturers. And when we look at the component level difference, here I have taken an example from Chevrolet Volt, Nissan Leaf, and then Tesla Model S. So here what you can see is the major components of an inverter system today, which is available in the automotive vehicle, either it is an electric or hybrid vehicle, right? So what is the major components that match is the control board. Everyone are aware that obviously we have the IGBTs, we have the MOSFETs sometimes, so we need to have a control board basically, which is going to work with respect to the inputs coming from the sensors, and it is going to end of the day actuate some actuators present in the system, right? And we have the gate driver board, so which is basically to drive the IGBTs, the transistors. So we have a gate driving system, and then we have a heat sink. So the heat sink design is basically dependent on the amount of power density that the inverter is providing, and the amount of temperature rise, amount of peak power that the inverter can deliver for that particular application. So there are many multiple factors that you people may be aware that the heat sink will be dependent on. And in addition to that, we have the power board, we have the IGBT modules, the actual transistors. And today there is a lot of transformation going on with these IGBTs. We'll talk about that. So then we have the bus bars. They are also going to play a very important role. So we have the bus bars made up of different materials, and the DC link capacitor. So basically, which provides the acceleration behavior, for the electric or hybrid vehicle, right? So most of these components are actually common for all the inverters. You can see the inverter from a Chevrolet Volt or Nissan Leaf or Tesla Model S. All the components have almost same components, and there will be few differences, minor differences between in terms of their technology of the components, but in terms of component, it is the same, right? So all these things, some of the inverters are going to have some integrated current sensors, definitely, because they have to know what is the amount of current basically coming from the battery to the inverter, and from the inverter it is going to the motor. So the current flow between these components has to be understood properly in order to give a proper input signal to the control microcontroller, right? So this is an inverter comparison. I thought it would be useful for you people. And here this is a small comparison of various ways of integration of the inverter. So as I told, power density, when we talk about power density means what? How closer we are actually bringing all the components of the power electronic system closer. And not only that, how much power it can withstand, or how much power it can deliver, right, when it is functioning in an environment, and how long it can sustain this particular power. That is also a factor. So when you look at the integration, so some of the companies, they use this type of integration. Say they have a motor, they have the motor system, and they place the inverter little bit on the top portion. So can you people tell me the first picture from Toyota Prius, what I shown? Can you tell me which one do you think they have applied? Which integration do you think they have applied? First, second, or third, or fourth? In Toyota Prius, the picture what I've shown in the initial slide. Which integration they have actually tried? The inverter integration. So this is the motor and this is the inverter. This is the motor and this is the inverter. I'm getting answer only from some particular candidates. So there are 70 plus 80, almost 80 participants now. So I request all the faculties to interact with me, so that to make this session, my session at least, my session particularly, it has to be successful. There is no excuse for that. It has to be successful. If it in order to successful, it has to be more interactive. Right. So I request all the other people also to answer this question. What do you think the integration used in this particular transmission? First or second or third or fourth? where the inverter is mounted on the Toyota Prius. Very good. I'm getting some answer, but I think everyone are answering second, right? But it's not second. Any other answer? Fourth? No. The answer is actually the first one. You can see this. This is the inverter at the top, and this is the motor housing. The motor and the housing. So on top of the motor housing or the motor system casing, this particular you can see the inverter is placed at the top. Yes, there is there is someone named Mr. Yogesh Wanhede. He has raised the hand. Is there any question, sir, from your end? Yogesh, sir, is there any question from your end? Okay, yeah. So if any questions, feel free to ask me by that same time. No problem. So here is the inverter placed at the top of the motor housing. You can see this is the motor and transmission, everything is housed inside. And on top of that, we are placing the inverter, right? We are not placing the inverter integrated into the motor. So in this case, what they have done is around the stator, they have made the inverter. And you can see here in this case, this is axial end plate mount. So this is called as radial housing mount. The inverter is placed at the housing, but it is on the radial top side. And you can see this is radial stator mount inverter design. And this is axial end plate mount design. And this is axial stator mount design. Right? These are all 4 different types of design being taken by different companies. So in radial housing mount, we can see better thermal isolation between the inverter and motor. Right, because if there is a temperature rise on the motor and the motor system, then it might, in this cases, in this case, the temperature rise on the motor might have a direct impact on the inverter directly, right? So we see that we have different 4 conditions, 4 positions basically. So radial stator mount. So radial stator mount can share the motor's cooling jacket. Say if the inverter and the stator both are actually integrated like this, then in this case, both the components can use the same heat sink, right? That is what they're telling. So in the model 1, this radial housing mount, we should have a separate heat sink for the inverter, and we should have a separate cooling line for the motor system, right? And when we have something like this, then in that case, cooling system, there are chances that the cooling jacket can be shared by both the components, right? But the disadvantage is that the outer periphery of the motor needs to have a flat surface to accommodate inverter component. That is a challenge. So when we have a round design like this, then the inverter design has to be not like, we cannot make it, in this case, you can see it is a flat component. So in this design, we cannot make it as a 100% flat component. So it should be like the PCBs what we use should be flexible, and they should be designed in such a way that it creates a round component like this, right? Have you people seen any inverter in this shape in any vehicle? Any inverter in this shape or in this shape? This is general. The number 1 position, what I have shown here, it is general in most of the vehicles. But have you people seen inverters in round shape or in these shapes? Anyone? I think Tesla is actually manufacturing that kind of inverter. So Tesla, you can see that they have the motor and the inverter sitting opposite to the motor. Both will look like motor actually. Both will look like a cylinder, but actually one of the cylinder is inverter and one is the motor itself, right? So that is the difference there. So this is the major comparison of various integration, and so each and every integration there is a challenge. So in this type of integration, achieving the high power density is difficult. It is going to be very problem because the distance between the inverter and the motor is quite higher. So because of that, the terminal, the high voltage line which is coming from the inverter to motor will be longer, and because of that, the power density will be under question, right? So that is the challenge there basically, right? So when we talk about Toyota Prius, like in addition to, we saw that the cable they have reduced, and they have also done some major internal changes. Let us understand that those internal changes in the inverter they have actually designed. So when we look at the Toyota Prius, these are all the different components of the inverter used in the Toyota hybrid vehicle, hybrid electric vehicle. So what are the components? So control circuit board, you can see this is the control circuit board, and this is the housing. This is the housing which is made up of aluminum, and this is the smoothing capacitor, and this is the power module, the IGBT transistors, and this is the reactor component, and this is the current sensor, and this is the DC-DC converter. So in Toyota Prius, what they have done is actually they have integrated both the inverter and the DC-DC converter. Why they are doing like this? Can anyone tell me why they integrate both DC-DC converter and inverter together? Is there any reason for that? Is there any reason that they make this decision or they make this design? You can see the DC-DC converter is placed at the bottom side, and inverter related components are placed at the top side. Yes, obviously here the DC-DC converter is to step down the voltage, but the question is why they are actually in the same casing. Why can't the DC-DC converter can be in a different case and the inverter can be in a different case? See, the sole purpose is basically, once again, the same answer is the power density, right? So end of the day, the whole power density of the power electronic system has to be improved, has to be increased. So because of that reason, that requirement in the market today, people are bringing all the power electronic components closer to each other, so that at the end of the day, the associated losses and can be avoided, right? So end of the day, here the power density is the main factor. So when we talk about the power electronic component in EV application, power density and the current density is the main important factor that determines its success, right? You can see this is the upper cover, this is the lower cover, and this is the housing which integrates the DC-DC converter and the control circuit board, right? And here we have the smoothing capacitor. And this DC-DC converter is not only, it is like basically we use sometimes both boost DC-DC converter as well as buck converters, as well as both the buck and boost converters as well here, right? So in this case, what happens is every time the electric vehicle is turned on, right, or the hybrid vehicle is turned on, initially what happens is when a driver turns on the key, the initial battery, some of the battery power gets supplied to this smoothing capacitor. You can see this capacitor sitting there on the inverter side. So this capacitor gets charged nearly 90% of its capacity whenever the driver turns on the electric or hybrid vehicle, right? And when the moment the driver presses the accelerator, the initial acceleration, the initial power is delivered by not the battery, it is delivered in support with the capacitor, this particular capacitor, which is already 90% charged of its capacity. So this capacitor provides the initial support, initial acceleration power for the vehicle, because I hope people are very well aware that electric hybrid vehicle, they demand very huge amount of current when they accelerate from the rest position. And once they get the momentum, once they get accelerated, automatically the power requirement, current consumption will be very lesser compared to the IC engine vehicles, right? So initial requirement is that when the electric or hybrid vehicle accelerates, the initial power has to be delivered in support with the smoothing capacitor. We can see this is the capacitor which is actually charged 90% of its capacity with the help of the boost converter, right? And that means with the help of from the battery, we have a relay contact which that relay connects the battery to this capacitor. So this capacitor gets charged 90% and then the relay disconnects, and then the initial acceleration support provided by the capacitor, and the moment the vehicle accelerates, then immediately the power starts coming from directly from the battery but not the capacitor, right? So this is and similarly whenever an electric vehicle is turned off, right, whenever our electric or hybrid vehicle is switched off, after we are running back, we are going back to your home and switching off the electric vehicle, what happens is the power that is stored in this capacitor, some of the residual power stored in the capacitor has to be discharged by the system. So we use the resistor which is available in the system to discharge this power from the capacitor. So it is a mandatory requirement for the inverter that the inverter power has to be discharged from the capacitor within fraction of time. So we have something called active discharge system, passive discharge system sitting inside the inverter. So whenever you turn off an electric car or electric hybrid vehicle, you have to wait for 5 minutes. Minimum, you have to wait for 5 minutes, because it will take minimum 5 minutes in a passive discharge system for the capacitor, this capacitor to completely discharge, right? So that is the requirement for an electric hybrid vehicle service engineer or anyone who is going to do any activity related to this field, right? So this is a system, the smoothing capacitor is going to be part of it. So these are all different components of an inverter of an electric vehicle. And so as people told, what is the purpose of DC-DC converter? What is the purpose of DC-DC converter here in this inverter application? I saw some answer in the chat box, but still, any more answers? And I am seeing some of the participants are like they have attended some of my previous sessions also. I think some of the people. I'm just looking at their names. So anyone can you say about this DC-DC converter? See, in petrol diesel vehicle today, petrol diesel vehicles, we have something called alternator, right? So which is going to charge our 12-volt battery, the low voltage battery, every time we turn on the engine, right? So in place of the alternator, in an electric vehicle, we don't have the alternator. So instead of the alternator, what we use is a DC-DC converter. So as sir mentioned, I think some of the participant named Deba Brata Atta, so I think he or she has given this answer, stepping down the voltage, right? So basically, this is actually working as what do you say? It is working as a charging system, you can say, for the low voltage battery. It steps down the high voltage power from the battery pack and converts that into a low voltage requirement for the low voltage battery, 12-volt battery, and that is where it supplies to the accessories basically. And accessories in the sense, it is not only the headlamp, tail lamp, or infotainment system, all these components, even the relays. Electric vehicle has so many relays. So these relays are also to be operated by the these batteries only, 12-volt batteries only. And you know, the relays in electric hybrid vehicle, they play a very important role. And so it is going to be a very important component in electric and hybrid vehicle, right? So that is the major component you can see on the inverter side. And when you look at Toyota, right, when you look at Toyota's development, Toyota made these top 4 modifications in their inverter design in order to improve the inverter's quality, inverter's power density, and other factors. One is changing the signal line input to the board, to the terminal connection, and optimizing component placement by integrating the capacitors and terminal blocks. That is also one more change that was done by Toyota in their recent hybrid vehicle on the inverter side. And the adoption of a double-sided cooling structure. So earlier model Toyota was using a single-sided cooling structure for their IGBTs, their power inverter module, and now they have gone for a double-sided cooling structure. I will just show that pictures related to that. And reduction of smoothing capacitor capacity by adopting new microcomputer and speeding up the boost control. So these are all the different changes, modifications, or I can say optimization done by Toyota to improve their inverter design. You can see the differences. See, this is the previous model, the specification of the previous model of the Toyota Prius and the specification of the new model of the Toyota Prius, right? Can you look at the difference, the major difference? Maybe I think this one would be good, you know, looking at this picture, the specifications of the motor and the power ratings. Can you compare the previous model, new model? What do you think the improvement done in the system? So the faculty who is going to answer this question completely is going to get my Udemy course for free. This is my small gift. So I have my Udemy course, an advanced course for faculties and professionals. So whoever answers this question will get it as a gift. Okay, thank you, sir. Mahesh Patil, sir, you have answered this question. And Kritika, Miss Kritika, Mrs. or Miss, sorry for that. And then lesser weight, very good, very good. Lesser volume, very good, sir. Very good. Anything else? Lesser volume, lesser weight. Weight has been reduced. Volume has been reduced. Maximum output density. Output density in the sense, what density? Yeah. Total output increased. It means you are telling the power output. Is it? Yeah. So kindly please, Mr. Mahesh Patil sir and Kritika ma'am, both kindly please share your email ID here. I will share the Udemy free link to you, both of you. Thank you for giving your valid answer here. Kindly share both of your email IDs in the chat box. I'll just take a note of it. Yes. So any other answers from participants? Any other answers from participants? High torque. Where is it? High torque. How much is the torque given? Is it provided here? Okay, it's not mentioned here, but yes, in terms of power, it is mentioned. Okay. Any other answer, like any other major change that you notice? Maximum total output. Maximum total output. Total output in the sense, yes, speed. Miss Minaki Behera, yes, speed. The RPM, right? The speed range of the electric motor. You can see the previous model, it is running a maximum RPM of 13,500 RPM. And here the new model is 17,876 RPM, right? So yeah, thank you, Minaki ma'am. Thank you, Tukaram sir. Thank you all for your answer. I'm just noticing it. Yes. So these both are actually, these are all the major changes you can see. The boost voltage, and moreover, you can see the voltage as well. The previous model, they were using 520 volt, and the new model, they're using 580 volt, right? So both the models, they have actually improved the RPM and they have improved the voltage as well. Yes. Yes, obviously, yes, because they will have a wider RPM. So when we have a wider RPM range, then yes, obviously there will be a change in the torque also. There will be an extension, you can say, extension of the peak torque, right? Yes, thank you for your answer, sir. Yes. Yes, thank you for your answer. So this is the major difference they have done. Let us see how they have achieved these differences, right? So one of the major differences is the power stack. You can see this is how the power stack, that means the IGBT stack of the inverter of this particular hybrid vehicle looks like. You can see this is the power cord, and you can see the cooling line. This is the cooling line, the heat sink component of the component basically, and the insulating plates, compression plate springs, and spacers, everything mounted inside this. Like when you dismantle this, we can see that all these IGBT components, and we call it as the power card, a complete power card. So the resin molded package, including the reverse conducting IGBT, insulated gate bipolar transistors, and the freewheeling diodes, both are integrated together, and the heat sink and terminals, right? These are all the different components. Yes, I'll note your email ID, sir. Yeah, I've noted your email ID. Yeah. Thank you for your active involvement in this. And two-in-one structure. Two-in-one structure. So you can see that the two-in-one structure here. So in the inverter design, so whoever answered this question in the past, yes, kindly please share your email ID here. Yes. So the two-in-one structure, we can see that the in Toyota Prius, compared to the previous model, they use something called one-in-one structure. So in this case, it was like, it was not allowing the inverter to be expanded flexibly. So if there is a new vehicle, new vehicle model that they are going to launch in the coming day, then in that case they have to create a new, you can say, an extended version of the the inverter module. You can say the IGBT. So here Toyota Prius, what they have done is they have used a two-in-one structure, and this allows the power card to be securely mounted. You can see the power card. These are the IGBT power cards, and these are securely mounted and the modular design. So this two-in-one structure design allows the number of power card modules installed to be varied depending upon the vehicle application. So without completely changing the inverter design, if you think that, say, now Toyota is developing an hatchback vehicle, right? In future they might work on some other component, some other vehicle. So now they are making a hatchback, and in coming after 1 or 2 years they might create a sedan. After 1 or 2 years they might go for an SUV. So whatever be the type of vehicle that they are going for, end of the day they don't need to completely change the complete inverter design, right? Just they need to extend the number of power cord modules. That itself is enough. So the two-in-one structure, basically what they have, it provides a modular design, end of the day, to improve the overall flexibility in the design, right? That is one of the reasons that Toyota went for this two-in-one structure. And for low output vehicle application, few power cards can be installed, reducing the inductance and reducing the number of parts. And when there is a requirement that high power output is required, then the number of power cards can be accordingly, it can be increased, and it will, once more power cards are installed, then automatically it will create a possibility to have more output current, higher output current, right? So that so the whole system provides a very good flexibility to apply the power control unit to variety of vehicle modules. So end of the day, by this modification, by using this kind of new design on the IGBT, Toyota has reduced the physical size of the inverter by 22%, and nearly 55% of the inductance between the P and N terminal was eliminated, because there was a wire between the upper and lower arm which was being eliminated in the new model of Toyota Prius. So you can see that this major difference, that has led to an improvement on the overall size of the component. You can see this is the power card that we are actually talking about. We are speaking about. You can see this. This is the two-in-one power card integrated with the. You can see the IGBT and the freewheel diode both integrated together. This we call it as the reverse conducting IGBT, RC IGBTs, right? So this integrates. You can see this RC IGBTs, reverse conducting IGBTs. They integrate the IGBT and the freewheeling diode, and overall it increases the power density and reduces the device area. And end of the day, the element area of the total the IGBT, you can see it has been reduced by 32%. Even that is also a major change or major improvement, I would say. And the problem is that deterioration of loss due to the reduction in the element size. right? So end of the day, because of the reduction in the element size of the IGBT, overall losses has been reduced. As you may be aware that we have multiple losses in the IGBTs, and by doing this, by this RC IGBT design, Toyota was able to reduce the overall losses in the system, right? And you can see that even in addition to this change on the IGBT, they also improved the structure. They introduced a structure called SBL layer, super body layer structure on the IGBT. So I think people who are very closely working on IGBTs, you might be aware that this particular structure adds, it helps to accumulate more hole carriers from the collector side, and it basically stimulates the infusion of the electron carriers from the device surface, right? So end of the day, because of this advantage, the advantage we have in this, because of this, during the switch on stage, lowering the on resistance of the device, and similarly during the turn off stage, discharge the high concentration of the accumulated carriers quickly outside the device, right? So both the things are possible with this particular change, introduction of this super body layer structure on the IGBT. And overall, with this new design, Toyota has improved the substrate thickness, overall by it has reduced it by nearly 24% on this IGBT, right? So the major work on the whole inverter, the major work is actually happening on the IGBT part. Either it is an IGBT or even the MOSFETs as well. They are also playing a role in the inverter system. And you can see overall the output density of the element, as you can see in this case, the kilovolt ampere per element area has been improved nearly 80%. It is such a huge improvement, and overall the high output density is also achieved, and the device loss has been reduced by 45% by reducing the element size, and the power stack has also reduced overall in order to contribute to the improvement in the cooling performance. Because when you reduce the overall size of the power stack, then obviously the cooling channel, the cooling sink, the heat sink requirement is also being reduced, right? So that is also another improvement they have done. You can see this double-sided cooling structure. So in addition to the super body layer structure implemented on the IGBT, they also implemented the double-sided cooling structure on the system. You can see in the previous model, they have used this single-sided cooling structure. You can see this IGBT component, and you can see the cooling plate which is sitting there, which is actually dissipating the heat from the IGBT, and we have the insulation plate, and we have the aluminum electrode sitting on top of the IGBT, and the wire bonding system we generally use. So in the new model of Toyota Prius, the hybrid electric vehicle, what they have implemented is they have made a dual layer structure. So you can see the IGBT here, and they have made a dual layer structure, and dual side, you have both the sides we have a cooling plate, and both the sides we have the cooling water running through the channel. And most of the time this cooling loop is actually connected with other components also. So the cooling line which is actually cooling the motor is the same cooling line which is also cooling the inverter also. So don't think that the inverter have their own separate cooling line. Most of the time they don't prefer that, because it is going to add unnecessary complexity and cost. So today people prefer something called integrated cooling design. So the cooling design, the cooling system for the motor, inverter, or the onboard charger, or other heat generating components on electric vehicle, mostly will have a common heat sink, right? Or a heat cooling system basically. So that is a change. So the double-sided cooling structure implemented by Toyota has also brought many improvements on the whole system, right? And end of the day, not only that, even though in addition to the IGBT, the power capacitor, the filter capacitor, the smoothing capacitor, what they use in this inverter, that is also being improved. So overall, they have improved the equivalent series inductance of these particular capacitors, and they have also made multiple changes on the microcontroller side. So the microcontroller has become more quicker in terms of operation compared to the previous model, and because of that change in the microcontroller, they have seen the possibility to reduce the size of the capacitor, right? Not only this smoothing capacitor, but the capacitor which is also sitting in the boost converter as well, right? So we see that placing and what is the major change they have done is, in the capacitor that they use for this smoothing capacitor, they have modified the bus bar design. right? Compared to the previous model where the bus bars were located at different positions, the new model, they have modified that, and they have made a bus bar design like this, a standard bus bar design, which is in parallel to each other, and it basically reduces the overall capacitor element size, right? You can see the comparison between the previous capacitor used in the Toyota Prius and the one which is used in the new model, right? You can see the overall improvement of the semiconductor switch control, and that has led to the reduction in the capacitance. And what is the final result when we reduce the capacitor size? What is the end result? So reducing the capacitor element size and the discharge resistance substrate size, and adopting much thinner, and end of the day, we don't need the same thickness that we had in the previous capacitor. So now the new capacitor, they have adopted a much thinner and new developed films they have utilized. And end of the day, the overall inverter size, this whole inverter size has been used by 4%, right? Which is a huge change, huge difference from one generation to another generation. So nearly 34% downsize has been happened on the power control unit. And you can see that the improved capacitor module not only reduced the mass and volume by 36%, but it also reduced the capacitance by 41% and the equivalent series inductance by 46%, right? So overall, these are all things which lead to the overall improvement on the power density, right? So end of the day, the whole inverter system is able to achieve a high power density, and we can see this, it is meeting all the requirements of this inverter, right? So today the electric hybrid vehicles main requirement is to have a highest power density. That is the current requirement in the market, right? And with this, in this case, you can see that they have achieved a 41% reduction in the capacitance, right? And nearly 36% reduction in the volume and mass of the whole system, right? So that is the advantage that they are adding to the system. And in addition to the capacitor modification, IGBT modification, the integration is also happening between the motor generator ECU and the inverter power module board. So the ECU, the motor generator ECU calculates an IGBT controlled command from various sensor outputs, basically, right? And a vehicle drive request from the ECU, right? Basically, it is this IPM board is nothing but it has the IGBT drive circuit and the protection circuit, which protects the IGBTs from extreme conditions like high voltage and higher currents, right? So here what Toyota has done is they have adopted a new methodology, new microcomputer, which is processing the whole control system in a very faster way. And because of that, they realize a very reduced losses. And because of that, end of the day, the number of they are able to integrate the components. The ECU is now integrated with the inverter power module board, the drive circuit board, we can call it as, because in the previous generations of Toyota, the drive circuit was different, was located differently, and the control board was located at a different place, right? So in the new generation Toyota Prius, both have been integrated together, end of the day, to adopt a very, very close integrated design. And the new, they have also adopted a new reactor current sensor, so which has increased the boost control cycle by 10 times. You can see this picture of the new current sensor. Let me show the picture. Yeah, you can see this current sensor. So this is the current sensor which has been utilized by you can see utilized by this particular system, and this current sensor have improved the compared to the previous model of inverter design in Toyota. This new current sensors have improved the overall efficiency, overall accuracy on getting the information to the controller. And I'm getting the question from Mrs. Sasikala ma'am. She's asking, placing the PN push bus bar closely will make short circuit, is it? No, ma'am, that is why. So that is a change today. That is the reason that they had, in the previous model, they had made the bus bar design like that. Today, the material, the material what they use in the bus bar, it is designed in such a way that even such a high voltage being transferred in such a close distance also. So there is no possibility of short circuit. They have made sure that those are completely isolated in the system. Yeah, so that is the improvement happened in the new capacitor, basically. So even though you can see the bus bars having their they are sitting very close together. So basically they are able to achieve a higher overall power density without causing any serious damage to the system. That is the change that has happened, ma'am. Yes, the improvement that is done by Toyota, right? So the new current sensor that they have implemented on the near the reactor, it is like 10 times it has improved the boost control cycle. See, the problem with the current sensor, that is a very big challenge near the current sensor. Can you tell me what is the main challenge, one of the main challenge that you could see when the current sensor is sitting very close to a reactor? Can any participant tell me the answer for this? First participant will get some gift. What is the main problem that if we keep the current sensor near the reactor? Who is the lucky participant who is going to answer this question and get a small gift? A small token of appreciation. Very good. Very good. Interference in the sense, what interference, sir? Very good. Very good. Very good. Very good. Have you given your email ID previously? No? If not, kindly please provide it. Yes. Deba Brata Atta. Yeah, can you please provide your email ID? It is actually the electromagnetic interference that is possible magnet that you can see from this particular, from the reactor side. We will be able to, there are chances that we get this reaction, disturbance to the sensor, which will definitely, create problem to the overall accuracy of the sensor information. Today, when we are actually placing, when these people from Toyota, when they place the current sensor close to the reactor, they look at the, the problem is they look at the accuracy basically. So previous model, they were not able to place the current sensor because as per the simulation results that they had a magnetic field simulation around the reactor area, and they saw that it is going to affect the current sensor. But the new current sensor implemented in the Toyota Prius inverter, it is having more immunity. You can say it is not the reactor has reduced the overall EMI around it, but it is the sensor that it has improved its immunity towards such a interference, and now it is actually immune towards such kind of interference. That is also one thing to be noted here, right? So the new current sensor design has added a multiple factor. You can see the functions of the current sensor has increased for speed up of the boost converter control. So they have used the current sensor not only in the boost converter side, but also in every power module, power card of the inverter side. They have placed the current sensor either on the motor side or the generator side or on the boost converter side. So it has overall speeded up the boost converter control, and the PCU can now detect input current of boost converter and output current of motor, generator, everything together. Because previously in the inverters that were used by Toyota, they had the current sensors only on the boost controller side. They were not able to keep it on the other components because of cost complication, we could say, or because of the accuracy issues they had. But now, because of the new modified current sensors and new advancements in the simulation process, we are pretty sure that the current sensors can give more accurate information compared to the previous one. So with reduced variability of the high voltage, the capacitance of the inverter capacitor can be further improved, further reduced. That is also a major change happened because of the current sensor, right? And the reactor is also modified, compared to the previous model of the Toyota inverter. The reactor design, the reactor design of the boost converter, which is part of the hybrid vehicle inverter, is also been improved. And the reactor, what is the major change? The optimization done on the inverter is basically the quantity of the gap of the ferrous core. The ferrous core which is used in this high voltage inverter design, it has been improved, and you can see because of this improvement on the reactor design from the previous compared to the previous one and the new one, better response to larger current was possible, and the speed of the boost converter control has also been improved in the new Toyota Prius inverter. And the unified molded structure, compared to the previous one, they have created something called unified molded structure, and this has also improved the vibration durability. It is not only the it is not only the current carrying capability of the reactor, but it is also the durability of the reactor to withstand any vibrations from the system, right? So when the motor is working, and generally the inverter is sitting very close to the motor system, so whenever there is a vibration or noise coming from the motor, it might translate into the reactor as well, this kind of reactor. So the reactor should be having enough strength so that the vibration durability. Yes ma'am. Hello. Yeah, is there any question? I'm not getting your question, ma'am. Kindly please put it in the chat box, since it is not very clear. End of the day, this unified molded structure, what they have created in this reactor, it has improved the vibration durability, and the new reactor use heat transfer sheet instead of silicon resin potting to limit the overall overheating of this new reactor. And this new reactor design, we using the new heat transfer sheet and new molded structure, and also the improvement on the overall ferrous core design has led to 27% reduction in the number of parts in the reactor compared to the previous generation reactor used in Toyota Prius, right? Due to the added current sensor, and better achieves the direct current in superimposing characteristics that are required over a wide current range by optimizing the core sectional area and number of coil turns. So there is also the optimization done on the ferrous core, as I mentioned, and because of that change, they have improved the overall direct current, the overall direct current superimposition characteristics of the reactor, and nearly 27% reduction has been happened in the number of parts of the reactor, right? So this is also a major improvement done on the system. And you can see that it enabled a cooling structure that compresses the cooling sheets that contain highly thermally conductive heat dissipating fillers. So compared to the previous model, the reactor design, the new model design, they have improved the overall. You can see that the overall improvement has been done on the reactor side. This is the improvement done there. You can see that, visualize that. So lower heat resistance, and finally improves the cooling performance, right? The new reactor is assembled using the completely fastened structure that helps to save work hours, especially compared to the previous model. So these are all different levels of design change that they have done on the inverter design, right? So overall, summary, after doing all the modifications on the reactor side and on the current sensor and the integration between the board and the controller, and the downsizing of the semiconductors and the capacitors, and implementing new IGBT systems, all these things has finally led to these improvements, right? So it has led to simplification of overall high voltage cable and bracket, and you can see the double-sided cooling structure being adopted, reduction in the overall housing, overall structure, and the capacity reduction, downsizing, and then optimization of the reactor, new current sensor. Everything has contributed finally to what? It has contributed to the reduction of the size of the inverter from every generation. So if you see the first generation Toyota Prius inverter, compared to the first generation, a drastic change. Nearly, you can see that nearly 28% has been reduced from third generation to fourth generation in terms of size, and in terms of power losses, nearly 19.8% has been reduced. Power losses has been reduced from third generation to fourth generation, and the breakdown voltage of the IGBT system has been improved from nearly 14.2% from the third generation to fourth generation, right? So this is how the improvements happen in an electric hybrid vehicle inverter system. These are all different ways that the companies try to improve that. And moreover, what is the major change end of the day happens, right? When the company or manufacturer or the R&D people who improve the design, end of the day, what happens is this is the old model. You can see the old inverter design, and you can see the new inverter design, right? Sorry, this is the new one. This is the old one. The new one, you can see this. You can see the difference between the acceleration and vehicle speed characteristic, right? So in the old vehicle, we had a limited acceleration behavior, right? Nearly, that means we in the new old model, the Toyota was able to achieve nearly maximum up to 60% of the capability of the motor, right? In the old inverter, right? But the new inverter that they have utilized in the Toyota, they are able to achieve 90% of the capability of the inverter, right? And 90% in the sense, the higher torque, the higher accelerations were possible in a very short period of time compared to the previous model, previous generation. So the overall acceleration behavior of the whole Toyota Prius has been improved from third generation to fourth generation, right? So the maximum driving force possibilities, maximum EV mode. Not only that, say in the previous model, hybrid vehicle, they are not pure electric vehicle, right? Hybrid vehicles means what? For certain period, say for example, 30 up to 30, 40 kilometer speed, it will be pure electric. After the vehicle speed crosses 30 kilometer per hour, then it shifts into hybrid vehicle or the engine. It goes to the engine. And once, if the power is more, if power requirement is more, then both the engine and the electric motor combines together, right? So most of the time in hybrid vehicle, the pure electric vehicle range is very limited. They cannot go more than 50 kilometer continuously in pure electric vehicle mode, right? So, but because of this improvement done by Toyota, these are all better on the inverter. We have not discussed about the motor, anything. Future, if we have possibilities, definitely I will be able to talk about the motor, thermal management, regenerative braking, and other aspects. Whatever we saw in this 40, 30, 45 minutes is that it is only on the inverter side development. So all these things led to overall extension on the pure EV mode. So if the hybrid vehicle previously had 50 kilometer as the pure electric vehicle mode range, today they have improved nearly 30-40%. So nearly it has gone to 50 kilometer to 80 kilometer of pure electric vehicle mode range. So once the driver starts the vehicle up to 80 kilometer, he don't need to start the engine. He can run only in the electric vehicle mode itself. That is also one of the improvement which is created. Why? Because these are all improvements, on the reactor side, capacitor, on the IGBT, on the boost converter module, or on the power cards, the IGBTs, everything led to overall efficiency improvement, and that overall efficiency improvement has led to reduced power usage from the battery, and this has led to extension in the EV mode of the hybrid vehicle, right? So I hope everyone got a minimum understanding on different aspects being taken care here. So by Toyota Hybrid, I don't want to discuss so many things. Let me stop here and give some time for you people to have some questions and some chat with you people. And maybe you can kindly put your questions in the chat box. So this is how, if you open the inverter, this is how it will look like finally. This is the, you can see totally nearly 3 plus 3, 6, and 6 plus 6, 12, and totally 14 IGBTs will be there. So why there are 14 IGBTs in Toyota Prius? This is my next question. Can any participant answer this? Why there are 14 IGBTs in Toyota Prius? Let me show the picture so that people will remember this. Yes. Why there are 14 IGBTs? This is the clue, and I'm coming back. Any answers? 14 IGBTs were there in Toyota Prius, and what do you think the role of those? Yes, anyone? Okay, for boosting, how many IGBTs, sir? Jagdish sir has given some answer. Jagdish sir, yes. For boosting, we have 2 IGBTs, and for 2 motors, we had 6 IGBTs for each. Right. So totally 2 motors are there in this Toyota hybrid vehicle. Because of that, we have a totally 6 plus 6, 12 IGBT plus 2 IGBTs for the boost converter module. Right. Thank you, Sasikala ma'am. Thank you, Jagdish sir, for your answer. Right. Yes. So if there are any questions, you can let us know. So I will also give a short introduction about our company to you, everyone. I'm coming from Haritha Technologics. Some of the people who are present here might be aware about my name, Prashant Kumar. So our company is actually working in automotive engineering and homologation services domain. So we do work on multiple, we do support with companies, startup companies like 2-wheeler, 3-wheeler, and other vehicle manufacturers as well, right? We support the testing, certification, and approval from central government on all stages of the vehicle. So that is the main work that we are doing. In addition to that, we do also have training development team. We have a academy which provides training and development for faculty, students, professionals across throughout India, and all our trainings are actually accredited by Automotive Skill Development Council, which is a certification body for automotive engineering in India. So all our trainings are certified by ASDC. So this is also an activity that we do. So I think if there are any questions from the session, feel free to ask me. So that's why I've given additional time.
Put it in the chat box.
Yes, whatever be the questions, put it in the chat box. And the lucky winners who answered my question whenever I requested, thank you all for your active participation. You will all receive an email from my side personally by today afternoon with the gift coupon for the Udemy course that I have created. Right? Yes. So there is a question from Sasikala ma'am. On which areas students can concentrate for project in 2-wheeler? Yeah. So first, before that, let me share my contact details, because I told that I will be sharing it at the end. Let me just. Sorry for that. Let me just share my contact details so that anyone, if anything needed in terms of any support needed, you can feel free to reach me at any point of time. So you can note down the email ID which I mentioned here, and this is my number 9786196955. That is my WhatsApp number. So feel free to get in touch with me in terms of whatever be requirement. Either it is your research requirement, either it is your laboratory, because our company is also developing Center of Excellence for electric mobility in number of institutes. So if in case your institute is actually interested for bringing up a center of excellence on e-mobility, feel free to reach us. Starting from Delhi to Kashmir to Kanyakumari, we do support it. There is no problem on that. So we are also working with some of the institutes in Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh as well. So definitely we can support it to any institute. So feel free to reach us to this WhatsApp number and this email ID. So and also you can also look at my name in LinkedIn. So I'll be able to definitely extend my support at wherever required. I think there's a question from Mr. Arun Prasad sir, role of multi-level inverters in EVs, right? Sir, actually what happens is on the inverter specifically, so multi-level inverters are not highly preferred in EV application unless, today you can say like the topology wise, very rarely they use it, and that is for only specific applications like truck and bus applications. And for passenger car applications, they tried it on the multi-level inverters. They initially tried it. End of the day, the overall and they were able to actually achieve the power density improvement on the multi-level inverter, but still they see that the number of component usage, component responsibility is increasing. And right now, mostly single layer inverters are being preferred right now on the system. Even the two-wheelers, three-wheelers, they use the general conventional inverters, but on the electric vehicle, hybrid vehicles, higher than passenger segment, like the commercial vehicles and higher heavy commercial vehicles, they will prefer generally the multi-level inverters, not all the other applications. Basically, it is going to add, it is not going to improve the power density. Basically, it is end of the day, it will reduce it. So end of the day, most of the companies don't prefer that. And there is another question from Raghuman sir. Why, according to you, the two-wheelers hybrid sector is not succeeded in India fully? Sir, two-wheeler segment is already very, very sensitive in India. It's a very sensitive segment in India, and two-wheeler, nearly 80% of our vehicles running in India is two-wheeler, and it is like already there is a complex system called engine, right? Even I don't like hybrid vehicles basically, because electric vehicles, they have complete advantage. The only problem is the charging system is the only issue, right? So because of that problem, and for two-wheelers, it is not going to be major problem. The charging time is going to be like 3 hour, 4 hour, compared to a bus or truck, which is going to be more than 10 hours, right? So two-wheelers bringing up a hybrid vehicle is definitely not economical, and it will not meet the end customer requirement. There are many people I have seen as a faculty, as research scholar, many people have tried a hybrid vehicle in two-wheeler, but there is no meaning, right? When we make a two-wheeler hybrid vehicle, it makes the system more complex, right? Already engine is more complex. That is why we are moving to electric motor, which is very simple compared to IC engine. And when we have it more, when we have a more, when we have a more component like hybrid two-wheeler, if it is a petrol, if it is a car or a bus or a truck, in that case, yes, hybrid vehicle is making some sense. But if it is a two-wheeler, then definitely it is not making a sense in terms of commercial benefits it is giving, right? And there is no meaning of going to electric then if we have a hybrid hybrid scooter, right? I hope you are getting yes, I hope you are getting the answer, right? So we also do a lot of skill development programs. So as I told, we have developed e-mobility center of excellence as well. So feel free to reach us, if you are want to get any idea on that. So how the particular systems work, how that, if you want to receive any quotation, even if your budget is less than 10 lakh, also let us know, because I don't think center of excellence means it will go for very costly high-end link. The center of excellence also has multiple laboratory possibilities, so you can also reach us. We can share our possible things. This is our previous sessions that we have conducted at different institutes in Kerala, Karnataka, throughout India. So this is at St. Kitts, Kerala, and this is Anna University, Chennai. This is at IITDM, Chennai. This is at MSME. This is for Central Government of India. As you know, I am also a certified trainer for MSME. So we do support for entrepreneurs as well. And this is for MSME. This is for Kerala. This is at Kerala Institute. This is at Kerala, Kollam. This is at Lonavala, Maharashtra, Singhad Institute. So IISc Bangalore. In IISc Bangalore also we did some program on electric vehicle domain. So NIT Trichy, Welltech University. So throughout India, we are doing skill development programs. So other than our major work of, other than our homologation testing activities, we equally concentrate on academic and professional development as well. So we do provide trainings for all segments. So definitely let us know if there is any such requirements in coming future, right? So hope it was quite useful for everyone. Session had given you some information related to inverters, right? Thank you all. Thank you all. If there are still any more questions, Ravi sir, I'm giving it to you.
Thank you so much, sir. In this delightful occasion, on behalf of management and organizing team, I express my sincere gratitude to our today's resource person, Engineer P. Prasad sir from Harita Techlogic, for sharing his wide experience related to a control unit, powertrain of EV, safety measures, braking system, and has provided an insight about the opportunities for a EV vehicle and recent trends of EV vehicle technology and insight about the Center of Excellence. So thank you so much, sir, for providing this, for providing enough number of inputs related to an EV technology. So thank you once again. So thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Dear participants, the next session will be start by 11:30 a.m. Thank you.
नाम नहीं हटाया तुमने? हैं? नाम नहीं हटाया? नाम हटा दिया ना? पक्का? सागर है और आशित व्यापारी श्वेता हटा दिया ना? आशित व्यापारी चला गया? फीस नहीं दी ना, बहुत 5 बच्चों ने नहीं दी एग्जाम की, तो 50 तो
Hello sir, your link is not working.
हॉस्पिटल जाना है आपको? मेरा मन नहीं कर रहा वो तो।
Send the link once again.
हॉस्पिटल जाना है आज भी जाना है तो
Hello sir, I am Rahman speaking.
तब चेक करती है कुछ
Hello.
लाइसेंस कुछ
Once again.
Yeah, your link is not working, sir.
Yeah, we will check it, sir. We will check it.
Okay, thank you.
सीमा से के अंदर कर दो ना, एक इसको और कम कर दो, कुछ लिखी हो
Link enable இல்லையா?
प्रशांत ठीक है, करा तुमने थोड़े से के लिए बच्चे? अच्छा जहाँ नहीं आ रहे हैं पेज लगा देती ना, तो पेज करके लेता है ना ये। अच्छा आपके में डेली भरना पड़ता है ना इसे? इंजीनियर पे प्रशांत कुमार ये भी यहाँ पर इसे पेज निकालोगे ऐसे? इसको अलग अलग पेन से कर देते हैं, हाइलाइटर कर लो हाइलाइट। चलो देखते हैं क्या करते हैं। छोटे बच्चे कितने हो रहे हैं हमारे? अब एक कैसे है सारे में 180 186 फर्स्ट ईयर में। हाँ 99